Hey there, anime. How you doing? Oh, that's great to hear. You know, I was just watching you yesterday and... What's that? What's that? You say you want to be combined with demigod powers, set in a mythological setting, and be made by the creators of World of Darkness? Wow, anime, that sure is oddly specific. But I got the thing for you! It's Exalted. Yay! Exalted was made by White Wolf Publishing in 2001, the creators of the World of Darkness. Another example being Vampire the Masquerade. Exalted was received well despite the tone change from gritty horror and realism to high fantasy. Exalted took more literary influence from pre-Tolkien fantasy, heroes like Conan the Barbarian and Elric of Melniboné. Combined with ancient Greek storytelling and Asian aesthetic, Exalted was then brought into an anime art style. It sounds all over the place, but it works very well. Exalted has gone through 3 editions over the last 15 years. The first edition in 2001, second in 2006, and the third in 2016. The latest edition was released after a successful Kickstarter in 2013. Alright, enough of a history lesson. Let's break this bad boy open. Bad girl? To start us off, we have some intro fiction. Typical White Wolf stuff here if you've read their other books. Alright, let's check out the table of contents. Alright, chapter 1, setting, and oh my god, 60 pages of setting info. Now don't get me wrong, I love this setting, but to give you more of the basics of the game and how to play them, I'll leave it out for now. That'll get its own video. That's the DrowDrew guarantee! To give you the basics of the setting, you play as returned hero gods, hunted down by the dragon-blooded empire, and meant to change the world for better or worse. There's a corrupt Romanesque empire, undead legions, rebel nations, fey monsters, barbarians, political intrigue between and within each of these groups. There's a lot going on here. Now for the rules. In this system, you mainly use a D20 to... D10s. You use only D10s. In most RPGs, you roll a d20 and add a derived bonus from other numbers on your character sheet. In Exalted, you get dots. When you roll for a skill or combat check, you roll an attribute plus an ability. You take the dots from each and make a pool of d10 dice. You roll that pool. You then count up any dice that show a 7 or higher. Each one is a success, and a 10 is worth 2 successes. Any numbers below 7 are not counted against you. Difficulties for a skill check range from 1 to 5. The storyteller determines this difficulty. However, in my experience, I found that 5 is fairly easy to pass. Personally, I would up the max difficulty to about 8 or 9, because demigods. Having 2 dots in one ability or attribute is considered the average, while 5 is the peak of mortal power. But what about critical successes and failures? A crit success comes from rolling any extra successes. A crit fail happens when you fail a check and you roll a 1. Exalted calls this a botch, and something really bad happens. Finally, there are stunts. This is an optional rule when a player describes their action in a cool way, or thinks outside the box, and impresses the storyteller or group. The storyteller rewards the player with 1 to 3 extra stunt dice for that action. Now it's time to create your Exalted! For making your character, refer to Chapter 3 for the steps. Chapter 4 goes into more detail about certain aspects, like the Exalted casts and the abilities. For a more thorough character creation guide, look in the video description for a PowerPoint I made for my group. Step 1. Concept. What kind of character do you want to be? What's their personality, their general history, and what abilities will they focus on? A major part of this is deciding what type of Exalted you want to be. The core book only has rules for making Solar Exalted. There are other types: the Dragon-blooded, Lunars, Sidereals, and Abyssals. Each one has their own book. For this review, I'll be going over the Solars. From your Exalted type, you can choose what caste you want to be. Think of it as a specialization. Next, you choose your nature, or archetype. Step 2. Attributes. Attributes are divided into 3 categories: physical, social, and mental. Prioritize them however you please. The first gets 8 dots, the second 6 dots, and the third 4 dots. Step 3. Abilities. Your caste gives you an infinity for the abilities under that caste. Mark the boxes for your caste abilities. Next, choose 5 abilities outside your caste. Mark those down. You start with 25 dots. 10 of those must be spent on your caste and favorite abilities. The remaining 15 can go wherever. No ability can be higher than 3 without using bonus points. Bonus points. Everyone gets 15 bonus points towards anything on your sheet, but must refer to the character creation summary table. 1 point does not equal 1 dot. Step 4. Advantages. You get 7 dots for backgrounds, and none may go above 3 without using bonus points. Select 10 charms. 5 must be from caste or favorite abilities. You have 5 dots to distribute between the 4 virtues, and you must choose 1 virtue flaw. Step 5. Finishing touches. Every solar starts with 2 essence. Willpower is made from your 2 highest virtues added together. For personal and peripheral essence, please refer to the screen, because I can't even that math. Finally, jot down your health levels. Your health level should reflect what's on the screen, unless you took Ox Body Charms. Now that character creation is done, it's time to mention the prelude. This is a small, one-on-one roleplay session between the storyteller and the player. It's to help develop the character for the campaign and give the storyteller hooks for the future. What event cemented your character's nature? How did your mortal become exalted? How did they meet the group and why do they stick together? The prelude should also lead up to the character joining with the rest of the party. These steps sound like a hassle, but just do it. In person, online, over email, just make sure you do these steps. It will help in the long run. Now it's time for Chapter 5, Charms. This is the bread and butter of the Exalted, and what makes them stand out from mortal men. Charms are simple spells all Exalted know. If you've played the Witcher video games, they're more like signs. Quick, easy magic abilities you can use on the fly. At this point, this is where the game begins to drag on me. Ow. Bitch. I won't go through every charm in this video, and I'll never read them all. The charms take up about 1/5 of this book. Even if you want a simple warrior character, you'll get charms. They help in-game, but they feel like a hassle, especially in character creation, and flipping through all those pages. To me, the charms bring down the game, making the system very clunky. It's ironic because the charms are what make the game stand out from the World of Darkness. Otherwise, they're pretty similar systems. It's just, the charms, man, they just get to me. Now it's time for Chapter 6, Drama. These are the in-depth rules of the game, ordered by solar castes. Besides combat rules being first, it's hard to flip through this section when the abilities aren't just done alphabetically. It's caste, and then each ability under each caste alphabetically. Beyond combat, the book does a good job on covering as much ground as possible for each ability. Now it's time for combat. I'll be going over the steps for combat and then how to track your damage. For this example, I'll be using 2 of my player characters, Zane and Willow. To decide your initiative, you gotta be fast and witty. Roll your dexterity and wits. So Zane has 8 in total between dexterity and wits, and Willow has 7 in dexterity and wits. Now we'll roll those up, and whoever has the most successes goes first. Gonna roll for Zane's first. Alright, he's got 5 successes. Now Willow's up for initiative, and she's gonna roll. She has 1, 2, 3. Poor Willow. So, combat has 7 steps, all on page 228, detailed right there. The way I like to think about it is there's about 3 phases these steps go through. There's the 2-hit roll, see if it actually connects, the damage roll, and then the actual damage that goes through all the defenses. Step 1, attack roll. Zane attacks Willow. He adds his dexterity, melee, and his weapon's accuracy. If specialized in certain weapons, you add that ability as well. So that gives Zane about a total of 15 d10. Jesus. In order to go on to step 2, he has to roll at least 1 success. Now it's time for step 2. Subtract penalties. This is an optional bit where if Willow was behind cover or using a shield or any other kind of contextual defenses, they would subtract from Zane's 10 successes he got. Step 3. Defense roll. The defender can choose to use an action to dodge or parry an oncoming attack. Each success takes away from the attacker's successes. So Willow's all like, I ain't about that life, so she's gonna roll dodge plus dexterity. So that's 6d10. So Willow rolls her dodge, and she gets 6 successes to subtract from Zane's 10 successes. Step 4. Determine damage. This is where phase 2 now begins. So the base damage of any attack is strength plus the weapon's damage. Then you add any successes on top of that. So Zane's strength is 5, his weapon damage is 11, and his successes is 4. So with that, Zane rolls 20d10. Step 5. Apply Soak. Zane rolled 20d10 and got 10 successes. Willow's lethal soak is 3, leaving Zane with 7 successes. Step 6. Roll damage. This is the final phase of an attack action. After applying Soak, however many successes get through become a d10. So Zane rolls 7d10, and the successes become damage points on Willow. Step 7. Apply damage. Zane rolled and got 5 successes on his damage, so Willow takes 5 lethal damage. Damage is discussed on pages 231 through 233. Each type of damage, bashing, lethal, and aggravated, are marked differently on your HP boxes. This is what 5 lethal damage looks like on Willow's health. She's a little over halfway dead, since the blacked out boxes don't count as her HP. Because she's on a -1 level, she has a -1 to all dice rolls until she's healed. She also moves 4 yards less than she normally would. Now, dear viewers, let me just remind you that this is one attack action. Why do I have to roll 3 times to do one thing? Why? Why? And this is before Zane uses any charms in this example. Yes, this makes combat way more organic than rolling against one stacked number, but combat is slowed down to a crawl because of it. Chapter 7. Storytelling. The Storyteller chapter gives some general advice on being a storyteller. It details on how making leveling up a bit more realistic with trying time, and it encourages customizing the setting, and that the storyteller is a final authority. Exalted has many supplements to it, and I mean many. All of these are mainly optional. All you need to play is the core book and whatever Exalted type you want, and you're good to go. These books here mainly go into more detail about lore, history, new mechanics. You definitely don't need them, but they're nice if you want them. Sure, the storyteller could add in mechas and rapey beastmen Exalted, but do you have to include them? No! Lastly, Chapter 7 tells us that power level does not equal drama. Drama should happen at any power level, and in this section they even go into the Superman and Batman differences in story. They say how it's easier to make a Batman story because he's not invincible. I think this is super ironic because you start off more as Superman than Batman. It's still a good thing to keep in mind, though, that you're a human being with extraordinary powers. You still have emotions and ties to the world, so you're still working off the human stuff. Yeah, that's on my script. Chapter 8, Antagonists. This shows the stats for different groups of enemies and a little lore on each one before getting into the gritty numbers of their statistics and whatnot. There's really not too much to say here. It's actually pretty easy to follow and has really good formatting, so this section is really good. It's good. Finally, there's Chapter 9, Wonders and Equipment. It goes into good detail about each of the weapons and armor, what they look like, and what their stats are. There's a bit more going on with weapons here compared to other systems, like giving you defense or accuracy dice, like in my combat example, but overall it's good. So, conclusion time. Exalted is one of my favorite settings of all time, and I love systems that use just one type of dice. Granted, this is one type of dice that can be multiplied into huge handfuls, and this is just one handful right now, so it can become buckets of d10s that you're rolling at some points. The idea of rolling dice pool versus dice pool is really interesting, especially coming from D&D, where players roll against static numbers. However, combat is a 10-step nightmare, and out of the 6 or so sessions I've DM'd, there's always a step I'm missing, even with all the steps right in front of me. Exalted also panders to those with one skill or gimmick, the kind of players who want to be just good at combat or just good at stealth or what have you. The charms help with that. The irony of the charms, which are meant to make Exalted stand out, is what makes the system so cumbersome and single-minded. Charms allow every player to be a mage knight, which makes character generation a chore of looking through spells. Even after choosing them, my players then have to use charms to help with their dice pools. Their pools are big enough already, so what was the point of spending 2 hours of choosing charms? And I mean 2 hours of answering questions, making sure requirements are met, etc. If I were to run this system again, I'd start the party off as heroic mortals, pretty much above average normal people, that then become their chosen Exalted type. They learn the charms as they go, making selection a lot more organic and not, here's a dumpster of about 10 charms, have fun. I'd almost recommend this way of playing for newcomers. That way, play can happen faster, and the characters are more likely to be fleshed out. And in between sessions, players can research the Exalted they want to be and the charms they want. That way, character creation is a lot smoother and shorter. If you're a White Wolf fan, you probably have one edition of this game. If you want to be a Mage Knight demigod with plenty of charms, this is the game for you. If you want a simple game with easy rules on playing demigods, this is not for you. This game can be a bit deceptive to those who don't know it very well, but hopefully this video has given you an idea of what to expect. This is an awesome setting, marred by its core magic mechanic, but I still love it. I will play or DM in this setting again, using the info and lore from the official books, but I'll probably be using another system when that day does come. Well everyone, thank you for watching, and be good to one another. This has been a DrowDrew review. And I'm outie. Man, I wonder if my hair will fall off again.